So imagine being part of the team that helped launch texting, mobile photo sharing, and mobile gaming before the rest of the world saw it coming. That's just one of the chapters in today's guest journey. Today on Legacy Decoded, we meet Madeline Froome, a true global strategist who's helped scale companies across Latin America, Europe, and the Middle East, and now runs a cutting edge trucking equipment company in South Carolina. Welcome to Legacy Dakota. This is a podcast about building boldly, thinking long term, and using AI to architect a life and business that actually matters. I'm Kalei Poteet, and today's guest has built an extraordinary legacy across countries, industries, and decades. From ad analytics in Chicago to training HP executives across Latin America and Europe to pioneering mobile applications we now take for granted, Madeline Froome brings unmatched wisdom, grit, and vision, and she's not done. She's now leading copper trailers and chassis, creating American-made trucking equipment to serve freight operators and logistics leaders right here in the Low Country. Thanks for having you, Madeline. I really appreciate you just stopping in to have this conversation with us.
Thank you for inviting me, and I have to kind of turn around and see who you're talking about. Thank you for all those kind words.
Absolutely. But Madeline, kind of just take us back. How did you get started in the world of international business?
Well, it was I started back in Silicon Valley in the probably the golden years of Silicon Valley for software, and the in order for me to break in was to be willing to travel a lot. And so, since I had the ability of languages, I was able to break into the software world, and then I took the jobs that no one else wanted, and so that just so happened why I worked in Latin America when I first started.
Nice. I'd love to know, how did your upbringing in Corsica and studies in Madrid, Paris, Chicago kind of shape your philosophy on business and legacy today?
Well, I'm really I was born in Corsica, so I'm an immigrant really to the United States, and because of my father, and my father always said that you're a citizen of the world. You're not. Your citizenry has nothing to do. Is not shaped by the street you live on, or the city you live in, or the state you're affiliated to, or the country's passport you carry. We are a citizen of the world, and so having always been told that it 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 wasn't something the ordinary to go and study and learn and what he had to do as the situation arose really.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely understand your dad's vision, right? I definitely feel there are no barriers in the world. We're all human, right, at the end of the day. So, you've worked across real estate, commercial insurance, advertising, and software. What links all of these roles together in your mind?
Well, the reason before I got into software, I was always looking for something that was entrepreneurial, and so I was brought to insurance by a gentleman who thought that I would do well in insurance and would fit the entrepreneurial mindset. And so when I went into the business, I just asked the broker what gave you the most commission for the same amount of work that you had to do, because there's personal lines and commercial lines and all that, and I really didn't know anything at that time. And he kind of was surprised when I asked him, and he said, well, sell condominium insurance. And you know what was that? So and that's what got me going to you learned insurance is probably the best business in which to learn how you create a market, how you find out who is your competition, how do you create a strategy in order for you to carve out a portion of the market for yourself and a name for yourself in that market. That was probably my best class, and my best real life lesson was those days of working commercial insurance. I left that because and went into software because commercial insurance had changed so much. It went totally digital, and so going totally digital, it no longer had the entrepreneurial abilities that was before, in my estimation. So I went into software,
Awesome.
and of
Yeah, I
course
had a
that
chance to
was.
work with. Yeah, I'm
Go
sorry. Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, and also that was the climate of Silicon Valley too, with software, and that's where I did commercial insurance. So that was also what pushed me over to software.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, we had a chance to work with our first commercial insurance client last year. Learned a lot, definitely learned a lot. So if you guys are watching, make sure to check out Lewis Insurance Group, a good friend of mine. Now, you were at the forefront of mobile technology in the EMEA region, texting, photos, billing systems. What do you remember about that innovation curve?
What most people don't realize is that the cell phone, as you know it today, was started in Europe. It came from Europe, and from Europe it came into the United States because the United States was the only country in the world where it didn't matter what your economic status was. AT&T would give you a contract and would give you a phone, so everybody had a landline phone, and everybody paid it monthly. Nowhere else in the world did you have that. A landline phone was for reserved for the very wealthy or those who worked for very large companies, and so they were backed by that company in order to have that contract and get that phone. So you had maybe one person, two people in a village that might have a phone. In a bigger city, you might have a bigger percentage, but still the majority of people went and used a public phone in a post office or on the street. So that's in Europe was the place where it took off because Vodafone was your first operator, which was an English operator who came up with this idea of you come and pay at a kiosk someplace 5 cents, $5, $100, whatever it is you could, and that's how many minutes you got. That's the reason why all innovation came out of Europe first, until the United States followed suit years later with mobile telephony. And at first, the United States was not even on the same platform. They were on a CDMA network rather than a GSM network. And then, of course, it's all history from there, how we now are all on the same network around the world, except for a few places that still use CDMA.
Interesting, interesting stuff. I didn't know that. So that's wow. All right, cool. I'd love to know it as well. What did you learn from consulting during the HP Compaq merger? How do you align people during chaotic change?
That's a very good question because when the Compaq, I don't know if you how much you know about Compaq, but Compaq was probably the prime competitor to HP, but they had a different vision of how to go to market. They used people on the telephone, so all they did was call on the telephone clients, and they didn't have much interpersonal relationship, and they were around the world. HP's manner to market was you had teams, sales teams, in which you had a team leader, and he was responsible for an account, and that account would be a corporate account. It could be Exxon, for example, could be an account, but Exxon is not only in the United States, but it's around the world. So you'd have the gentleman who is in charge of that account. Being in charge of that account, he was in charge of bringing in so much revenue to HP, and that was part of how of HP's revenue stream that they could then base their growth, company growth, for their stocks and things of that nature. So when you had two companies of strength attacking, if you will, or going after, if you will, the same client, HP decided at the time to buy out Compaq so that they could take out that competition and made it a cleaner manner to win clients. The only thing is that now you have two salespeople at each level doing the same job. And it was very important to get the message across that you weren't enemies, but rather that you were partners in bringing in that client and making sure they only bought HP and not maybe Acer or some other client, another soft hardware from a competitive country. You had to align their thinking, and that was very difficult because you had to understand each person's fear, and the fear was to lose their job, to lose, their future, to lose their plans for their family, for themselves. That was the underlying fear each one of these people had. And in some countries, there aren't that many jobs that they could have or transition into that would maintain their level of economic independence. So that was truly the lesson, is that when you want to align people and work with people, you really have to understand, accept, find a solution for them that is fair for them at all times. It's not, you've got to come out of what was good for you and go to what is good for them. Because at the end of the day, what is good for them is going to come back and be good for you.
Love that. I love how you put that. It definitely gives a brand new, fresh perspective on alignment. And yeah, that was brilliant. How do you approach, when you think about it, how do you approach building systems that outlast the people who created them?
I think at the end of the day, it's not telling people what to do, but it's asking people how they would solve the problem that they're responsible for, and then holding them accountable to that. You can't really ask someone to give you what they're not capable of giving you. And it's not fair to judge someone else by yourself or your standards, or what, good, bad, or indifferent. It's not fair to judge others that way. You have to take what they can give you, what they are capable of giving you, and what they're willing to give you, and then incorporate that and make it the best. And then little by little, people then grow, and they do better, and give more and more and more, because they decide and see that they can. I can tell you all day long how great you are, but if you don't believe it, it's not, it's, you're going to look at me, well, that's what she's saying, but that's not the truth. It's just by you telling me what you're going to do and reaching those goals, and then by and the lesson that you learn for yourself is that, hey, I can do this, and yeah, I am this, I am capable. It's, you are your own cheerleader, and that's what makes things lasting, really.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That's a great blueprint. And you've led high level strategy and local executions. How do you switch gears between the two effectively?
Really, I think that what we forget is that we have to sit down and figure out where we want to be, really want to get to. Doesn't matter what the situation is. What is the end goal? What is that true end goal that you are willing to work, day and night? You eat it, you sleep it, you think it. That's the end goal that you want. And then once you know what that end goal is, then you come back to where you are now, and then figure out how you're going to get to that end goal. And each end goal has a timeline to it, has a lifetime of expectancy to it. So you figure out where you are, and then with the steps it takes to make it, and then each step you make just is in that direction, and it gets you closer and closer and closer to that end goal till you've reached that end goal. And that's basically what a strategy is that you have an end goal, and then you look where you're at, and then you create the path to it.
Got you. And I think as you create that end goal, there might be outside noise or factors that can kind of pull you off of that trail, right? What's a good way to kind of, I guess, eliminate that noise, or deciding what's actually going to pull you closer to that end goal and what's actually just a distraction?
Well, you have to have an open mind to everything that you hear and see around you, because even when you have a strategy, there are a lot of situations you just cannot control. Uh, it can be economic, it can be political, it can be all kinds of things. So there are situations that you can't don't have any control, that can impact the end goal. So you have to have an open mind and realize when you're in that kind of a situation. That's number one. Number two, you have to also realize that it's your greatness and your strength comes from the fact that you believe in something other than yourself. Okay. You have to realize that you aren't the creator of anything. And the best example is that, can you create a tree or a flower or whatever? The answer is no. All of those species and everything have been created in there before us. So the only thing we can do is manage them, and make sure that they continue to exist by cultivating their seeds and all that sort of thing. And that's the same thing with a strategy is that you have to realize that it is something that was is an ideas or things that were given from someplace else, and it's up to you to with the consulting of other people and listening to people, whether what they're saying is good, bad, or indifferent. Everyone has a value. It can be in what not to do, to make sure not issues not to fall for, and at the same time questions to ask and to be aware of, and then how to maintain once you've reached your goal. So every thing that you're going to hear has some value to it. You just have to keep your mind open and realize that you're the sum total of messages that are sent to you.
That's real wisdom. That's real wisdom. If you're watching us live, just put down in the comment section where you guys are tuning in from. We'd love to know where our viewers are located. If you're watching the replay, definitely do the same. Again, we have Miss Madeline Froome on. She's a global strategist and serial entrepreneur. You've kind of led us through strategy, and I really appreciate your insights. Let's jump over into logistics and trucking for a second. Can you tell us about Copper Trailers and Chassis? What drew you into heavy equipment manufacturing after a career in tech and strategy?
Well, I wanted to be in something that was fundamental, something that was the base point of any economy. And the base point of any economy is to be able to get whatever goods and services to market, to the urban areas. And if you can't, it doesn't matter if it's food, if it's raw materials, whatever, it stays where it's at, and it doesn't create a commerce, it doesn't create a flow of goods and services to the market. And also, it is a business that no matter what is happening economically around the world, and the pressures it has, it is always needed. It's a base. It's needed. It will. It's not something that a person would say, "Well, I can do without this month or next month, and save money and I'll buy it in the third month." No, it's needed now in order to continue. That was one thing. Second of all, it's manufacturing, and manufacturing is really the basis of creating jobs. It's a basis of creating a community. It's also the basis of teaching young people what is it that they want to do, what is it that makes them happy, what makes them feel that they've achieved something. And manufacturing does that because you take materials and you take components and you put them together, and then voila, you've got something. And you do all of that in a very short time. So it's get up in the day during the day and in the morning, and you feel a little down, that you feel like you're not accomplishing something, and you go to your job, and now you at the end of the day you've made something. You've lifted up your spirit, you've lifted up yourself, because you started with nothing and you came out with something. And I think that's what the type of education and life skills we need to show young students, who starts out to, at around 10, 11, 12 years old, that, hey, this is what life is about. And by seeing it and by being part of a company like Copper Trailers, they find what they like. And hopefully by the time they finish high school, they've got the life skills to continue and to be great corporate and community citizens.
Love that. Love that. Great insights. And I'd love to know, right now with Copper Trailers, who's Copper Trailers looking to help, and, what problems are they solving for today's logistics and freight operators?
Well, we're in a I hate we're kind of in an antiquated business. Trailer manufacturing is in today's 21st century is an antiquated business. Really, it hasn't yet come into the 21st century, and part of the reasons because those who hold market share are third generation. It's very generational. So they have established, through generations, have established their brand, their position in the market, and there is no real necessity or pushing necessity to change, to adapt, and to look at the world from a different lens. So that's why my partner and I saw the opportunity, not only because of it's the type of business we wanted to be in, but also it was a business that that we could bring a very true added value to the industry. One, by making it customer centric. So we look to the customer. What is their need? What is their vision? Where do they want? How do they want to grow? And then assist them in making the decision as to the type of product that they're going to buy, and then maybe even adapting that product so it has a versatile uses. Instead of just for one use that they're thinking about, it can be used for two or three uses. So now that has a direct impact on their bottom line, because the bottom lines today are truly under pressure and under attack, and so it's hard to maintain that same buying power that your company had maybe 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago now. But if you can get an equipment that adds directly to your bottom line, that helps you in maintaining your profit.
Absolutely. Yeah, I come from the driver's side. I was an owner operator carrier company. When I first got started, I ended up selling the truck, and then we got more into the services side, and we worked with a company in Texas, Advantage Trailers. I think they were actually into, I guess, buying off-market trailers, used off-market trailers, and reselling. But you're also deeply involved in community leadership in Charleston, South Carolina. How do you balance business building with board leadership and philanthropy?
Well, I think that it's the in my estimation, it's the responsibility of all of us to help each other. I try to do what I can to help and to share my successes or the blessings as they're given to me. So that's basically what it is. One thing about South Carolina is that it is the birthplace of jazz, and so it would be a shame to let that culture in that history lose itself because we're not putting the necessary energy into getting the word out. Hey, this is history. This is real. This is where the younger generations don't know this. I mean, the jazz has kind of lost its way, and so the more we can do to promote it, the better it is. And besides the other things that we do, in the trucking business and so that sort of.
Yeah, I grew up in Louisiana, so spent many, and I've lived in the French Quarters as well. I always used to go and check out the live jazz shows. Every time I call my dad, he has his ring. You'll listen to the jazz tone before he picks up. So definitely have appreciation for the sounds and the music of jazz music. So I love that. What advice do you have for women looking to lead across traditionally male-dominated industries like tech or trucking?
Well, it's when you're in a traditional male environment, it takes patience and it takes understanding. It isn't that the men don't want you in the business. It's like they've been educated and molded to a certain way of thinking from their youth. And then for them to change all of that overnight is a little bit difficult. And especially if they are married and their wives are at home, that makes it even more difficult. If they have wives or sisters or mothers or that worked in the industry in some phase, then it makes them a little more adaptable to the fact that, hey, it's okay, where they don't have to fear anything, because men are just like women. They have their fears, and they have their insecurities, just like the women have their fears and their insecurities. And unfortunately, we don't always recognize it and work with it. We always have this image that the men are strong and they're never afraid, and then and they can handle anything, and this, that, and the other, and it's not necessarily true. So that's is something we have to learn to overcome if we're going to be successful. Second of all, there aren't enough men anymore to do the job, and women do need to step up to play to do the job. That's a society has to accept that reality. When you have wars and so on and so forth, and you're sending constantly the men to the front to fight, they're going to come back, injured, dead. They're not going to come back the same way they went in there. So that means that you have less men to do the jobs they normally do, and women have to adapt and integrate themselves to do the position.
That's interesting. Yeah, my partner Brianna, she's been a big staple in what we do here at Fleet Connect. She was the creator of this community. Right now, we're approaching 53,000 members on our Facebook group. I think at the time she just graduated from LSU, and I think maybe 21, 22 is when she got into the trucking industry as my dispatcher specifically. Yeah, so it's really interesting to see what type of, I guess, love and support she got as a young lady entering into this industry. It was very, very interesting. So let's jump into a lightning round, Ms. Froome. So I'm going to hit you with a couple of quick questions. I just want you to go with your instinct. You ready? All right. Best city to get lost in.
Best city. So I love the water. So anything that's on an island, that's where I like to get lost in.
I love the water. I was born in Hawaii. Have to be by water. All right. Book that changed your life.
Book that changed my life. I guess reading the Torah laws, because the laws today as we have them in the Western world come from the Torah, and so reading them as they were first written and seeing how they evolved, I guess was very eye-opening.
Most underrated skill in international business.
Personal relationships.
And could you sum up the word legacy in one word?
Sharing.
And what are you still learning?
How to understand people and be of service to them.
Brilliant, brilliant. Now, for Copper Trailers, what do you feel like is working really well for you guys right now, and what's kind of been the most frustrating?
Well, the most frustrating really is getting the brand out there and getting people to give us a chance to show that what we can do, to open up and share with us what their dreams are and then for us to share with them some of the ideas that we have so they can make their dreams. That is probably the most frustrating thing. Communication is difficult to create when you don't have a known brand. We're used to just dealing with known brands. Society has forgotten that there's a lot out there and we can give everyone a chance. That's the one thing. And second of all, what I consider as a great win is that we've been able to move our dream forward and keep moving it forward, even though it's been a lot of trials, a lot of tribulations, but we're still working through it. And with the grace of God, we'll deliver what it is we wish to deliver to the community and society.
Absolutely. Thank you all for everyone who has given us a chance, especially over here at Fleet Connect. I know it's been a interesting 5 years in the trucking industry so far, especially we just getting started and nobody really knew who we were. So definitely want to show love and support for giving chances, right? I mean, if you guys could solve one major problem today, what would that be?
In the world of business or just in general?
Yeah, in the world of business.
Well, we're striving at KTC to constantly create or use materials that are cutting edge. Now, we're hampered by U.S. laws and that sort of thing. But when you look at it from a global aspect, is to be able to use the latest materials so that it delivers to the customer a product that can stand the test of time and deliver to the bottom line, maintain their profit or increase their profit in a safe and peaceful manner.
Interesting. In trucking, I know it always has its ebbs and flows. I know there's a lot of speculation or just thoughts on where the market will be heading in the future. What major shifts are you seeing in the industry right now?
Well, we're trying to, the shifts that I see in general in business in general is to make everything robotic and independent of human intervention. So what that does is that where trucking was a great entry level for any young man or young woman now to become an entrepreneur and build their own income stream for their family and meet a vision. That's all really being taken away because we want the trucks to drive by themselves. We want the robots to make everything. And those are the major shifts that are happening.
What do you think we can do to actually prepare for what's to come? I totally agree. Totally agree. I didn't go to, well, yeah, I did. Coming straight out of high school, I did like a semester in college and just felt like I don't think this is really the path that I wanted to go down. I felt like my father was an entrepreneur, and I kind of got that from him. And just moving forward, I was actually gifted an opportunity, a grant to go back and take some college courses. I actually finished up this summer semester, graduate next May. But yeah, I definitely agree with that. That's very true in a lot of senses. You know what? And before we wrap up, just a couple of questions, if I may. You've you know, built this really great business model. I think it is a fabulous business model, especially in the open deck and flatbed space, specialized step decks, low boys, customized trailers, right? I think that's brilliant. You know, which metrics are you guys most on focused on improving right now? Absolutely. Absolutely. Great insights. If you could go back to your younger self, what one or two really great nuggets would you tell yourself? That's true wisdom. That is true wisdom. Madeline, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today. From shaping the way we communicate globally to building systems that endure, to now create an impact through copper trailers. It's clear your story is proof that legacy isn't built in one industry, one role, or even one country. It's built in the consistency of vision, values, and the courage to just keep reinventing, right? So to our listeners, we want to thank you, everybody that's participated, everybody that shared insights. And if this conversation sparked something in you, share it with someone who is building their own legacy. And don't forget to subscribe, like this video, comment, questions. We'd love to see it, to engage with you. So you never miss these deep dives with leaders shaping the future. Again, this is Calais Poteet, and you've been listening to Legacy Decoded. Until next time, keep building boldly, keep thinking long term, and remember, legacy isn't what you leave, it's what you live. Again, thank you, Madeline. I appreciate you.